Welcome to Remembering You, a space for slowing down, seeing again, and gathering the parts of yourself that the world asked you to forget.
Each week, we wander through stories, ancient, personal, and collective, to explore how perspective changes everything. How what we look at and how we look can open doors to who we truly are.
Take a breath, feel your feet.
You've arrived.
Let's begin remembering you.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Hi.
Hola.
How are you?
Welcome. It's almost summer.
Oh, it's summer. It's Texas. I am so grateful for air conditioning. It's so humid.
I love the heat.
You
So,
do.
The sun is amazing.
Yeah, you
The
just
wind is amazing.
bathed in the sun for... You were in there for a while.
All day long. All work in the sun.
Uh-huh.
Boat in the sun. Walk in the sun.
I like it sometimes for a little bit. And then my body gets...
Dehydrated?
Yeah, probably overheated. Heat stroke is not fun.
Fried.
Yes. So today's a little different because we're going to talk about something that you don't really know what it is we're going to talk about.
We're going to wing it.
Well, I have
You're going to interview me.
literally pages and pages of notes. Yeah, I want to get... So I read a paper by Dr. Tom Murray, who we met. He was in our meditation training. Tom is...
About 3 years ago.
Yeah. He was not a regular participant like you and I were. He was going through it as a participant, but he was like an advisor or, he was there to support our meditation teacher because he is an elder to our meditation teacher and has known him for a long, long time. And so Tom is a very impressive human, is the research director at the Stages International, which is the ego development model that we walked through early in the inception of this podcast. He's done a ton of research and writing, super smart guy and very kind. I experienced him as just he was quiet. He didn't say much, but when he did, it was always really lovely. And so I stumbled across a paper of his. This was maybe a month and a half ago. And in it, he mentioned another paper that he had written, but that one was behind a paywall. And so I emailed him and I'm like, hey, can you send me this other paper? Because it's behind a paywall. I don't want to pay $150 to read it or whatever it would have been. And he's like, yeah, of course. And it's great to hear from you. And, how are you? And how's Ryan? And da-da-da-da. And so, we traded friendly little email chats. And then he's like, I would love to know what you think because, as a writer, so the paper, the specific one that I had asked for, he and 3 other guys took them 2.5 years to write. And he's like, we publish it and then it's not like there's a feedback method. There's no comment section on research articles. It's not like putting something on Instagram and then, what people think about it. And so he's like, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And that one was really great. And then he's like, oh, and by the way, here's my website. And here's, you can get links to all my other stuff that I've written. And there was one that caught my eye and it was in the same kind of category as the one that I had just read. And the name of it, but it's like 139 pages long. And that's the one I want to discuss today. And it's called Knowing and Unknowing Reality.
139 pages.
We're obviously...
Strap in, brothers and sisters.
We are not. And it's like dense and meaty. 139 pages.
8 hours later, we're still going. Thanks for staying with us.
Going to be able to talk about the entire paper. So then it took me a solid week of doing nothing really other than just trying to digest this paper. And, I was sitting there on the couch. I had to print it out because I am old school. I got printed out. I used my little highlighter. I make little notes in the margins. So that took me about a week. And then the last week, I've been going back through with my notebook to write out parts because I had a shit ton of reactivity. Like, I was triggered and delighted and excited. I was experiencing the full range of human emotions reading this paper.
So thank you. So far, this is a great setup. And
Yes.
It would be helpful to unpack the idea of how you read a paper.
Yeah.
Because I would wager that most folks, if they're reading something, they're not going to be triggered by it because they're reading it in a particular way. And so you're reading it in a way that does something in your experience. So maybe say a little bit to that.
Yeah. Well, I think I noticed two separate little threads in that. One is I am not reading this to put more data in my brain. This is not just a logical exercise. This is does my understanding of who I am and what the world is, does that match with what this paper is saying? And turns out, no. The paper was challenging my fundamental understanding of reality, which is enormously unsettling and simultaneously sometimes really exciting. So, I don't get triggered reading the weather, obviously. That's not challenging my view of reality. This was. Hence the being triggered. So that was one thread, but then I'm curious if you also meant this other one of I am holding it physically in my hand. I'm highlighting it with a marker for first pass, and then I'm going back through and I'm writing things out. And I had told you that I had read a little comment on a Substack article yesterday or day before that said children who learn how to read from a tablet often confuse, for example, the letters B and the letter D because they have not yet physically with their body written out what a D is. So there's a way in which they don't know what a D or a B is because they haven't physically written it because they learned it on a screen.
No embodiment.
No embodiment. Hence the connection between mind and body, and intelligence is fundamentally born in the body, not the brain. So I imagine was that part of why you were asking me?
Yes, and.
Okay. Okay.
So from a spiritual director position, there are moments where I will stop someone because they're reading something as information.
Yeah.
And it's just building more information in their experience versus reading from a formational perspective. What is being formed, or what's a possibility of being formed, and how can I be conformed to a higher knowledge, experience, perspective, understanding, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, that fits perfectly with the whole topic that we're going to talk about. You're so smart. You know what we're talking about.
It's a good day.
So this is an enormous paper. I'm trying to just strip out the highlights. I think one way to start is to say that what Tom is trying to do is talk about the way that science and spirituality don't talk to one another very well. They're kind of at odds with one another.
I would agree 100%.
Yeah. And so he's trying to build a bridge between the two. And the whole paper ends up being an absolute masterclass on the fourth person perspective. Because that really is kind of the first perspective that can stand back far enough from both science and spirituality and try to see what's going on. So that's kind of one little nugget. Another one is what science and spirituality often share in common is... Hold on, let me see if I can find my actual note here. So what science and spirituality historically share with one another is an intense, sometimes defensive, performance of certainty. So both science and spirituality can come from perspectives where they are very certain about what is true.
And go into a defensive mode.
Sometimes it's defensive, not always.
I think certainty is, to use a religious term, an idol within our experience as a human, and will always let down, disappoint, and fail. Certainty.
Certainty will always let down. Oh, yeah. It might scratch the itch for a moment, but it's ultimately not going to pan out.
But the more that we have to fight to try to protect our certainty, we just prolong the agony of what's coming. And so he's pointing to, that's the premise of his paper.
Yeah, that science and spirituality are at odds with one another. They often point the finger at one another or think of the other as the enemy. But what they share in common is their love of certainty. And so we are going to basically step out of that. I mean, you and I are kind of always doing that, trying to look at it from a broader perspective, which a philosopher would call post-metaphysical thinking. So that's just, it forces us to confront how completely undeserving we are of a lot of our certainty. And depending on your own personal relationship with this topic, for some people, they get really, like me, I get really excited and then I trigger myself and then I like, it's just like, I like intensity. But then there's also plenty of other people who, they really fall into some deep, yucky nihilism, cynicism. And that is also, like, that's not just a minority of people. Like, it's totally normal if you're someone who's like, I don't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole. So I would argue, honor that intuition that you have and don't try to force yourself past it or something like that. Because I think our psyche should be honored. Like we should want to challenge ourselves, but we should also really honor our limits or honor that little voice that is just like, can you please not?
If it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense.
Just that too.
Agree with what's true.
Yep. Yes. So metaphysics is at the bottom of everything. And what that metaphysics is simply, it's like a broad name for a type of thinking that thinks of reality as how I subjectively experience what is true, as opposed to maybe what I can objectively, quote unquote, prove. But there's only, so for example, we could do this, like, we could pretend we're little kids asking why. And that you will, if you do this with anything, you will inevitably get to the metaphysical ground of everything. So you could, for example, make an observation: when I drop an apple, it falls to the ground. And why? Well, because gravity.
Why?
Okay, why does gravity exist? Because mass bends the fabric of space-time.
Why?
Why? And why does it happen the same exact time or the same way every single time? That is the metaphysical bottom. Like, in order to do science, we have to blindly trust this unprovable underlying assumption that the universe is governed by orderly and rational laws that do not arbitrarily change. And science cannot prove that gravity will or will not work tomorrow. It just has to assume that it is going to continue to do so. And that assumption is a metaphysical belief. So metaphysics underpin, like, every single human walks around with dozens and dozens or perhaps hundreds of metaphysical beliefs that science can never prove. And so what it's trying to show is, like, the limits of rationality. Like, rationality is a super cool tool, but it's actually really deeply limited. And of course it causes all kinds of blind spots, which he goes into a lot of those too. So those are like the big nuggets of the paper.
If I were to come at it from a mystic perspective, I would use St. John of the Cross, one of his quotes, and he's the one who coined the idea of the dark night of the soul, the idea of coming to the end of your knowledge experience, knowing of the divine, and kind of being in darkness, and not exactly a pleasant experience. Anyone who has experienced the dark night of the soul, it's something that goes on for a long time, and there's no end in sight. So he has some weight in his words when he says, to come to the knowledge you have not, you must go by a way in which you know not.
Step into the abyss.
St. John of the Cross.
That's great. Terrifying. Harrowing. So far, all of this, as I'm reading this paper, I have no problem. I don't know when I started to transition into the perspective that, like, gets all of this, so to say. Maybe 6-7 years ago is when that started. Maybe a little bit before, but, like, I think if you're the rational scientific type and you're interested in neuroscience and psychology, you start learning about the Dunning-Kruger effect, or the overconfidence effect, or reification, where basically we take our abstract ideas and we see them as more real than, like, actual reality itself. So let's say, for example, I'm wearing a Oura ring or some other smartwatch, some device that's measuring my sleep, and I wake up in the morning and I'm feeling all refreshed and energized and ready for the day, and I open up my phone to check my app to see how I slept last night, and it tells me that my sleep performance was poor. I might then immediately doubt my own lived body experience. So I believe...
Gaslight yourself.
Yeah. I believe this abstract approximation of an algorithmic, like, sleep score, and I put more weight in that than I do the fact that I woke up feeling energized and bright. And we all do that with all kinds of things all day long. And so when I started learning about stuff like that, and then I would notice the way that I would do stuff like that, I'd be like, oh, yeah, I totally fall victim to the overconfidence effect. I have myself, the brand new psychological graduate, thought I now knew everything and was super confident about everything, and then, like, quickly got schooled and realized I didn't know shit. So anyway, I think that was my doorway into starting to understand that the way I perceive reality is not reality, even though I might be super, super sure about it. I'm curious, because you were not the rational scientific person that I was. So I'm curious how it came for you.
How, what specifically?
That transition, maybe from, like, would you say that that was your, like, when you deconstructed from your fundamentalism?
Probably.
So that was quite a while ago.
Yeah. Late 20s, early 30s. And it was, finding people like Rob Bell or Ken Wilber, even a little bit of Alan Watts.
Oh, yeah.
There's a mixing or a blending of Buddhism and psychology, Ram Dass. Yeah, so there were these voices, these authors who were giving a new framework that was complementary to what my experience was, but it wasn't directly opposed to the foundation that I had grown up with. I think that was important in my
It's a nice, gentle
unfolding.
transition. Well, not really.
For me, it was, because I was doing it all internally, and so it wasn't until a year or two on the other side of that process that I started speaking and teaching with a different, I would say, motivation or ground of being or center, and then doing things, identifying with philosophies and perspectives that were not in line with my previous experience of religion. And so there was opposition, but I was already on the other side and had worked through, had felt through, had experienced what I needed to.
So for me, the way not having had any faith or spirituality really for my entire life until I kind of got to this stage, so when we ask that why series of questions and we get to, like, the laws of nature, like, there's a structure here and it's, we can't really describe it. Like, we don't know why gravity does the things that it does. That's the place for me that feels like God. Like, that's what I imagine God is like that metaphysical ground that if you ask the why questions for long enough, you're going to get to a place where it's like, I don't have a word for that. And I think that's what people, well, okay, I know not everybody I mean, some people believe in, like, the sky god version and, but for me, that's how I hold, that is my spirituality, in other words. And I got a little confused when I was reading this paper because in some parts of it, he kind of unfolds his argument slowly. And I thought he was essentially saying that I was, like, delusional in some kind of way with that belief or with that feeling of, like, that's where I put God, for the lack of a better word. Because I don't, like, I need to make, we are meaning making creatures. And so we got to have some kind of meaning making for it. And I thought he was challenging. Turns out he's not, but I thought he was for, like, a good 20 pages or so. And so I was just like, fuck, I thought he was challenging the very ground of my reality. And that was a little uncomfortable.
We are meaning-making creatures, and there can be a point in our experience where we don't have the capacity or the will or the desire or the creativity or the I would use the word hope to find meaning in the void. And that's nihilism, and can be a very scary place to come to the end of the whys and just be like, there's nothing here. And for me, as someone who finds meaning from a mystical or sometimes a mythic storyline, the darkest point in the morning is indicator that the dawn is about to happen. And that's just because my makeup is such that there is a mythopoetic way of just embracing the uncertainty in my life and coming to the end of that experience of asking why and not being able to ask another why, which is scary, disconcerting, unmooring, if our whole experience has always been, well, why? And how does that work? And what makes that do that? And and then when you come to that place where curiosity hits a wall, it's like, okay, now who am I? Now what am I? Now what is the purpose of anything? Because my purpose has been to be curious, and now I can't be curious anymore in the way that I had been curious before.
Yeah. Well, and in my, very third person perspective, rational scientific days, my spirituality, for the lack of a better word, was science, because science was the very thing. It was the tool that was going to allow me to see more deeply into reality, which is true at a level. Like it does reveal, we know a lot more about the world than we did 10 years ago. And, things that are normal and commonplace to us now 100 years ago would have been thought of as like absolute magic. We've got these devices on our phone that like I just touch and I can access any amount of information in the world, and I can make a phone call all the way around the world. Like that's goddamn magic to a person 100 years ago. And so that was my connection to awe and wonder, which is valid and beautiful. But I guess not only is it limited, but I also came into it by way of the new atheists like Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris. And Tom Murray talks about them a little bit in the paper. And essentially what he's saying is, their approach was, they don't have any compassion or understanding for any kind of religious or spiritual beliefs. Of course, they were coming on the heels after 9/11, and, there was a lot going on culturally that sort of gave them a big wave to ride. So that's the defensiveness that I think he was pointing to about their certainty. And it's not speaking to anybody's heart. They weren't winning over anybody's hearts, but they were winning over a lot of minds. And ultimately, like, it worked for me for a solid decade or more. But ultimately, it was the human heart experience that pulled me beyond, into this space beyond, because, I mean, I was like I felt like my soul was dying. And I didn't have any words, but it's like soul was the only one that I had. I'm like, I feel like I am dying inside and I don't know why, but I know that I need community and I know that I need people, and emotionally, like I am flailing here. And and then psychedelics kind of added a whole new layer of beauty to that too. But it still is sometimes a really scary transition.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, anytime we go from a place of the familiar into unfamiliar, I think we can be honest with ourselves and say that there might be excitement about the new horizon and letting go of what is known to take hold of what is unknown. Like, I've had experiences where I got a whole lot less than what I bargained for in that experience. And I'm sure you could tell some stories as well where that was the case in the unfolding of that new season of life. And that's what it means to be human.
Yeah. Yes. There was, so this is a quote from his paper. In the early 2000s, the new atheists came onto scene, Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, and they displayed little empathy or tolerance for those with religious beliefs, including New Age spiritual beliefs. Part of what is so helpful about developmental theory is the way that it shows, one, certain aspects of our cognition give rise to religious or spiritual needs and functions at all time for all people within a layer of the psyche, and two, it is unreasonable and potentially harmful to propose that an increase in our rational mind alone is a cure for spiritual thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I could not agree with him more. Like,
the cure for spiritual thinking.
Right. If we just adopt scientific thinking, then that is going to be what cures us of these magical, mystical because so what he's pointing to is those, that first and second person perspective, the magical and the mythical layers are fundamental. They're unavoidable. They're absolutely necessary. I mean, they're as necessary. It would be like an analogy that is a very scientific one. Like in the same way that we learn math. So like we first learn numbers. So that's like the first person perspective. That's our magical thinking layer. We actually learn the numbers, and then I can learn how to add and subtract them. So now that's maybe the mythical layer. And then I can do algebra and calculus. And so I can't do algebra and calculus. I don't get rid of the layers before. I still need to understand the numbers, and I still need to know how to add and subtract them and divide them and multiply them. And so it's always additive. And so the idea that like rational scientific thought is going to cure us of our spirituality is like thinking that calculus is going to cure us of our need for multiplication and division. Like, no, these are... So anyway, and it keeps it... I mean, I think... I don't know if... Like, I'm not mad at any of those atheists that I followed religiously in my 20s and 30s. But I do now, sitting here in my 40s, recognize that, oh yeah, that probably didn't need to be quite so painful and traumatic. Like, but I only knew what I knew, and that's just what spoke to me. And like, I don't have any regret, I guess. I'm not mad about any of it, but I'm still recovering.
When your lens is fundamentalist or is black and white, like that's who you will see, that's what you will see, that's the assimilation. I think I can point directly to that time in my life when I went through that shift of I didn't know what an Alan Watts was, and then all of a sudden it was all Alan Watts. And it was just like I was a new human in that experience. And I could not separate that way of making meaning from my experience. And it was because I was taking everything very literally. And it was black and white in my us versus them. All of a sudden it was like we have people who just believe in the Bible, and then we have people who believe in the Bible and actually can make sense of science and the human experience and experiment of trial and error and testing and experience. And it was like, why for so many years was I the kid who was just playing, as C.S. Lewis says, in the slums with mud pies when I could go away on holiday and be on the beach, and enjoying the ocean. And it was just like, this is a whole new world. And then I realized, I'm in a new system a few years later. And it was like, I'm not going to do to myself what I did previously of locking myself into another fundamentalism or way of seeing or being or understanding.
And that would be this trap of certainty. That grabbing onto this new ideology as if it is now the thing.
Which, from an evolutionary perspective, certainty is why we have come to where we are today. Like,
got us pretty far.
Our forefathers and mothers knew that there was a place where there was a bubbling spring coming out of the ground and it was safe for people to drink out of. And so like that was the place that it was certain and everybody went there.
Yeah.
And so did wildlife. And so then it was hunting, and that was near certain way of getting the calories that you need in your diet. And so there is the blessing of certainty, and there's also an understanding that is delightful to realize that it has turned on in my experience, that certainty is a coat that we put on and we can also take off, and it's just that simple.
I mean, the other, arguably probably the main reason that he wrote this whole paper was he started with, or early in the paper he had, kind of exhibit A was a number of quotes from very prominent spiritual thinkers across various traditions, New Age spirituality, all the way, Christianity, Buddhism, and they have the same kind of language, speaking in absolutes, and his concern, or not concern, what he's trying to point to is the need for a post-metaphysical perspective to be able to hold, not to like argue against what they're saying or to prove or to disprove, because that's of course just another certainty thing, but to hold it much more lightly and ask maybe in what way is this real or true or not real or true. And that I think is a wonderful, beautiful thing. And I spent a good part of the paper kind of confused because the post-metaphysical perspective is very natural for me now. And I thought he was challenging that. And I'm like, no, but I think, is that what there is to do? Anyway. So, but So what you were saying, it's inevitable that depending on your perspective and where you're at, when you engage with content that is absolutist. So I'll give an example. Let's give an example of what from Exhibit A. This is from Adyashanti. What is he, Zen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All things, all beings, and all activities, no matter how ordinary, are equal expressions of the infinite. Therefore, all attempts to either find or hold on to the infinite are based in illusion. And illusion itself is none other than the infinite. Simply put, ultimate truth comes at a cost, and the cost is everything in you and about you that is unreal. The end result is freedom, happiness, peace, and no longer viewing life through the veils of illusion. So they use words like infinite and boundless, and, they'll capitalize reality or they'll capitalize being. It's like that there is some... So Tom's concern is that people read or hear many of these spiritual teachings and imagine some other realm beyond space and time and beyond subjective human experience that all of this exists in. So it's kind of like the Christian version of imagining a heaven up in the sky. Mm-hmm. It's not here on earth. It's not right here in this time and place. God is not walking among us. He is some kind of magical guy. And I think that way of thinking about things is inevitable. And we don't do it with just spiritual things. We do it with politics and economies, and we do it with everything. Santa Claus. And so I get his concern, and I think it's really beautiful the way he so brilliantly kind of shows what it is to move from those perspectives and into a post-metaphysical one. But I also had a lot of feels because so at first I didn't know why I was churred. Mm-hmm. And then when I went back, as I was reading, I was just highlighting parts, and I'm just I'd write it in the margins, fucking ouch, and then when I was going back through and writing my notes, I was like, okay, let's feel into this, what's actually going on. And there were a number of things that came up. One was, as he's describing the first person perspective, second person perspective, the magical, mystical thinking, so one trigger is I poo-poo that still in sometimes not so subtle ways. I was projecting that he was putting down those earlier perspectives, which he was not at all. That was entirely me. And it took me a little while to see that. So I was feeling my own shame about my own magical, mystical thinking, which is a totally normal, fundamental, adding and subtracting and knowing your numbers. We need this. This is a good thing in us. But I kind of have some of my own shame pops up. And then what's under that, I think, is, I made a... so as I read through the expressions, this is my own thoughts. As I read through the expressions of the first and second person perspective, what I notice is my automatic suspicion and or rejection of their modes of knowing. When third person perspective came online for me, it did so as a desperate reaction to my past. The God I was taught did not make sense to me, and my family of origin was terrifying. My own first person perspective world, so myself from ages 0 to 4 or 5, was mostly one of fear, suspicion, and deep confusion. I had almost no experiences of awe and wonder, save for the tree in my front yard or the forest a few blocks down from my house. The movies we watched were filtered through the lens of sin or not sin. Stories were read to us like vegetables. They were read because they were good for us, not because they were born out of connection or bonding. My broader family on the Collins side was genuinely jovial and welcoming. That was a place of actual pride and belonging. So what I'm naming is my own childhood experiences of my first and second person perspective didn't have belonging and storytelling and magic and awe and wonder, save for the tiny little pockets of like when my dad's whole extended family would get together. But like my day-to-day experiences were terrifying and painful. And so now, so it puts me at odds with my very own first and second person perspectives. And I feel shame about them and I feel afraid of them. And then when I hear other people talk about them, I react.
Because it's unfamiliar or unknown territory.
Yeah, I didn't.
You didn't have a well-worn path.
No.
In those.
No, I had
That vein.
fear and pain, and I didn't have awe and wonder and beauty. And so I'm having to. It was really eye-opening. It also I think a million different thoughts all at the same time. Like, it's so illuminating. I mean, I guess just why I have so much reactivity, but things like for example, psychedelics. I am simultaneously deeply drawn like a moth to a flame to psychedelics because it puts me right into magical mystical thinking land, which I didn't really get to experience in any kind of healthy, supportive way. But inevitably, I will experience an enormous amount of physical pain and emotional reactivity when I'm in those places. And I imagine this is probably partly why or entirely why. Like I'm trying to reconcile this childhood, the decades, like the first 2 decades of my life being really painful and really confusing. And it's like going into those states of mind kind of puts me right. Like I can't avoid, I'm no longer suppressing any of that content.
It drops you right into the trauma.
Yeah. Yep. I think so.
This is coming up, so I'll say it. My definition of love, so 1 John, a literal reading, God is love. And the interpretation or my experience in childhood was that love saves, because God so loved the world that he gave, and that he saved us. So in my first half of life, that was the definition of my relationship, or the meaning that I had with my practices or interaction, or living out my faith, until my divorce, when I realized that God's love never had saved me from anything. And wasn't going to save me from the horror of that experience as it was unfolding, which was very disorienting.
Oof.
And
Yeah.
there was a new unfolding of what does it mean that God is love. And meaning was translated to God is love and accompanies me, or is present in all of my experiences, not saving or removing me from experience, but giving me the desire and power to continue to move forward and take the next step.
Yeah.
And so that shift, that change, that move is, I think, replicated, or it's a path that we all follow in our experience, no matter what our growing up was spiritually positive or spiritually negative or religious or irreligious. Or scientific, or there was very little reason or understanding in our growing up years. No matter what, that story or narrative or the way that we make our meaning, it eventually will fail, fall apart, and we'll be in a process of rediscovering something from a different perspective of our present experience in life.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I imagine you're pointing to my kind of more recent, finally, after bonking my head against the wall for so long, recognizing any of our therapeutic interventions or meditation or whatever, physical, emotional, psychological, they don't fix anything, they don't heal anything. So akin to your God is love, God doesn't get rid of anything. He doesn't save you from anything. That all there is to do is, well, you can frame it as surrender. You can frame it as learning to love all of the things that hurt deeply, like to stop fighting them and to stop trying to fix them, because there is no fixing them. So I imagine that's the same kind of shift that you're talking. Yeah.
I was listening to the Ram Dass Be Here Now podcast, and they were interviewing Duncan Trussell, the comedian.
He's so funny.
And the creator of the Midnight Gospel
Yeah.
on Netflix, the series. And for 30 minutes, he just went off in so many different directions, and
As he does.
random flights of thought. Just some of it was humorous, and some of it was satire. Some of it was just embarrassing,
Obnoxious.
and then he got to the end, and he was like, and basically what I want to tell you is stop doing what you're doing that you think is spiritual or is going to make you more spiritual. Don't go to the conference. Don't buy the book. Don't. And I'm listening, and I'm thinking, what is going through the mind of the interviewer here in this moment? Because this is not going to
Doesn't put butts in seats.
No, it's not going to fulfill the bottom line of almost what the purpose of the podcast
Right.
is for.
Yeah.
Continuing the legacy of Ram Dass and his message.
Yeah.
And sustainability. And in one fell swoop, Duncan Trussell just kind of said, you're perfect. There's nothing for you to do.
Yep.
Just stop trying.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, we arguably are saying the same thing in this moment.
It's delightful.
Inadvertently. Yeah. But of course, just like anything else, you can only get there. I mean, you can't get there before you can get there. Like, but I think it is helpful to know. It's helpful as a pointer, even though you might not understand it, even though it might not at all align with what feels true for you. At least it's there in the back of your mind, and you're trying to figure out, like, wait a minute, why would they tell me to stop trying to not go to the conference, to stop reading the book, to stop. So it's like,
to stop saying the mantra, to stop doing the prayers, to stop trying to learn Sanskrit,
yes.
And we have to do those things because our minds will attach to something and run with it to the logical end. And then once we get to the end, we find out all we have to do is let go and just be here now.
Yeah, sure. It's just that easy. Just do it. Just like you would think surrender is the easiest thing in the fucking universe.
It's just that easy.
Okay. Can I read you, like, what is this? A page and a half, probably, from his paper? So this is on, because this will be a good place to end on. This is the how do we bridge, maybe bridge is one way to think of it, or like, how do we harmonize our magical, mystical thinking capacities that are very healthy, utterly baked into our psyche, cannot function without them. Don't care how atheist or rationalist you are, they're still a part of your experience. So how do we reclaim them in a way that is true and good and healthy, while also holding the post-metaphysical perspective, kind of that, like, what does that actually look like? So in the first chapter, we noted that, quote, along the further reaches of the spiritual or psychological path to radical stages of consciousness one can encounter, along the further reaches of the spiritual or psychological path to radical stages of consciousness, one can encounter experiences such as profound states of emptiness, bliss, boundlessness, expansiveness, one-pointedness, and/or compassion. The two truths doctrine used by many spiritual teachers associates such experiences with the metaphysically absolute, and these are all capitalized, so capital absolute, ultimate, primordial, empty, and/or infinite. These sublime experiences are thought to reveal and give us evidence of another realm or an ultimate reality. Such narratives might be useful to allow those who have not had such experiences to be motivated to seek them, or to admire those who have attained them, arguably dubious proposals. But for those who have had such experiences, it would seem that metaphysical narratives diminish one's experience more than helping to deepen, integrate it, or understand it. Makes sense so far? So he's saying that in the way that when our meditation teacher gave us the pointer that this world is an illusion, and I was taking it, like I was trying to figure out what he meant by that, and he did not qualify it by saying, I don't mean this literally, this is a pointer because your brain is constructing experience and it's not. So the way that I spent probably like longer than was necessary to be really confused. And so that I think is what he is pointing to, that the way that they talk about these experiences, if you don't qualify them enough, like, even though I am pretty solidly in a post-metaphysical perspective, and it's just kind of how I look, when I heard that and it's from a meditation teacher, and like, I clearly look up to him and think of him as something of a master. And so he's saying this thing and so I can't help perhaps, but like take it very seriously. And I was just taking it too seriously. So anyway. For example, Ken Wilber includes, quote, an ultimate unity, oneness, infinite harmony, and interconnectedness with the entire universe, the discovery of our real self, big mind, the groundless ground of all being, the supreme... I'm not going to keep going. Ken Wilber is so verbose. You get the idea. How does Wilber, or any of the others quoted, move from an experience that can best be described as a feeling of unity or oneness or infinity or complete emptiness, to a claim about the nature of reality in the cosmos, under what authority or using what action logic, what developmental perspective, is one authorized to make such totalizing proclamations? As we have said, eternalist claims are taken as valid because in this language game, including metaphysical realms and beliefs taken from spiritual authorities, was the accepted mode in these, so like in the earlier times that these traditions grew out of. Like that's all you could do was use that kind of language because that's all, because quite frankly, cultures had not yet developed into the fourth person perspective like we have today. The human mind simply cannot experience literal infinity. That would either take an infinitely large brain, or if one finds that too reductive, an infinitely large consciousness. The diehard mystic might say, oh, you see, that proves it, because when you are in that state, you are at one with God, with everything. But that sort of self-justifying circular logic is not invited to the humble party of post-metaphysics. So let us instead feel into it instead. So a deep gaze into the ocean's horizon or the night sky can evoke a sense of vastness. Pause and breathe in that vision. So if we imagine gazing off into the ocean's horizon or deep into the night sky, like how that actually makes us feel. One can feel vastness on top of vastness, or in one-pointedness at the center of one-pointedness, etc. So we can, like as we practice, we can deepen in this recursive way. At around third-person perspective consciousness, so the scientific kind of rationalist perspective, the concrete feeling of vastness, so like that actual felt embodied feeling, is abstracted and infinity becomes a possible object of thought, allowing one to imagine and to talk about the idea of space or time or numbers extending out hypothetically indefinitely with no end. So we can't do that at the second person perspective. Like we literally can't even imagine infinity until we get to the third person perspective, both the infinitely large and the infinitely small. Analogously, there was a time when cultures developed an early third-person perspective and discovered the concept of infinity, which is eventually formalized as a mathematical construct. The abstract concept of infinity remains metaphorically associated with the concrete experiences of vastness, awe, and incomprehensibility. How can it be that something feels infinite if we reject the metaphysical notion that one must then be in touch with actual infinity or God, etc.? I will offer a plausible explanation. The sublime mystical states of boundlessness, union, bliss, one-pointedness, etc., are examples of what psychologists call flow states. Though these words point to different flavors along a continuum of experiences, any one of these states actually feels a little bit like all of the others, and the concepts are connected in a tangible metaphorical pluralism, in a tangle of metaphorical pluralisms. The experiences of being and feeling infinitely large and infinitely small are actually closely related and often co-occur in contemplative practice, like when you're sitting in meditation. Flow states can be understood as neural activation with great coherence of free-flowing connection across large swaths of the brain. It feels like something when our brains are lit up with an unusual degree of synchronous activity, or when you're taking psychedelics. This is because parts of the brain are dedicated to monitoring other parts of the brain, allowing one to, quote, sense aspects of one's thinking and feeling, what we call proprioception of thought. There are 1 billion trillion stars in the observable universe, and which is about 10 times the number of grains of sand on the Earth, and about 500 billion stars are in our galaxy alone. These are incomprehensible quantities. The human mind did not evolve to be able to adequately comprehend the difference between, say, 1 billion and 1 billion trillion in a direct experiential way. There are about 100 billion neurons in the brain. Each neuron can have up to 10,000 connections. Scientists estimate that the number of neural connections, called synapses, exceed the number of stars in the galaxy by a factor of 1,000. So, what does it feel like when the brain in a flow state experiences that many of its neurons firing in a synchronous pattern? Pretty much exactly like infinity, as close as we can have to it. Which I just love that analogy. One cannot blame mystics and spiritualists of ancient times for equating such experiences with the concepts of infinity and boundlessness. Even today, we have no better concepts for describing such sublime experiences than the highly abstracted concept of infinity or emptiness, which might correspond to the fact that the brain is a synchronous superfluid state, seemingly empty of chaotic conflicting signals. But one can eschew taking the metaphysical leap of believing what ancient wisdom traditions tell one about the actual cosmos based on such experiences.
Awe and wonder.
Yeah.
It's interesting working with people at the end of their life, and I have one patient right now where he wanted, when he first came on service, he wanted to spend lots of time just talking. And he was reaching out for connection and didn't want our visits to conclude. And he crossed the threshold about 2 weeks ago with a fall and confusion and like his brain and his body is starting to fail him in a way, and he was intensely uncomfortable sitting and trying to have a conversation. And
Like, you mean physically he was just really uncomfortable, or more than that?
it was more, yeah, it was psychological.
Oh, okay.
And so much so that there was a point in the visit where I asked him, would you like me to come back another time? And that's kind of my way of giving somebody an out when they're visibly, and I'm discerning that mentally and just their whole world is such that they're trying to run from it and they do not want to slow down. And he was like, yeah, come by another time. And when I did, it was the same thing again. Like, the TV was on and it was loud and we're trying to have a conversation. And then there was just one point where his attention just left me and it was just on the TV.
Yeah.
Like, he just could not handle slowing down enough to feel what he is experiencing. And he's not in physical pain. There is mental and emotional pain that he is experiencing. And so I sat with him and watched TV. I said, is it all right if I just sit here with you a little bit and watch some TV? And he was like, yeah, sure. And so, that was my way of the ministry of presence with him. And it wasn't glamorous and sexy and like, I wasn't pulling down the annals of heaven and opening up the wisdom of all the traditions of antiquity. It was just joining him in his pain and suffering and being okay with just being okay with it. And so meditation is the same thing, or any discipline or any practice or any ritual that we have in our lives that is our way of either embracing meaning or running from the meaning that is following us, that we do not want to have attached in our experience, but it's still there. The hounds of heaven are following us at our heels, nipping.
Yep. Well, I mean, that's an enormous gift and capacity to be able to give somebody, to not have to not be so attached to what it is you think your role is supposed to be for them, or to be looking to get something out of it for your own self. It's like just meeting them where they are and being okay with wherever they are.
It's just a different way of being in the world. I would just call it presence.
Like I can imagine, I mean, because I've been in a situation, not in that exact situation, but like, let's say a coaching client and they show up to our call and they are very clearly not,
Dysregulated.
yeah. And they're like not wanting to be there. And then I've had that challenge, like, well, one, the fact that I want to fix them. Two, the fact that there's like my own pride about how great of a coach I am. And so as a great coach, I've got to like, if I don't get them to a place where they are present with their shit, and then I suppose I'm probably, there's my own, like all of the times that I have avoided my shit and then paid the consequence for it. And I'm trying to desperately rescue that. Like there can be so much reactivity that prevents us from just like, can I just sit here and be present and not have to fix them and not have to worry about their eternal soul? And yeah. Well, I think one, for me, the final point maybe that I want to make that I took away from this, and it's funny how I've read it from other authors, but there's a way in which it just didn't land until it kind of had somewhere to land, maybe. That a post-metaphysical or a fourth person perspective, or like this capacity to, hold things lightly and not be so attached to certainty and blah, 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 is also deeply relational. Like there's an intimacy that is not really possible in any of the perspectives before. And so, for example, I have a note here that says it introduces the reality that knowing yourself is explicitly collaborative, dialogical, and relational in its enterprise. You cannot expose your own blind spots or psychological shadows by yourself. We do it in relationship with others, which, of course, made me think of us, because we trigger the shit out of each other all the time.
Not all the time.
Often enough.
I have no one else in my life that triggers me, so
Yeah.
I will give you that status in my life, babe.
Same. Thanks.
You're welcome.
And so, like, having the courage to stay, as best we can, like, and I fail at this almost every single time, fail, quote unquote, so to say, like, I reach the limit of my capacity to stay present and not be completely overwhelmed and react and get reactive and feel whether it's shame or anger or like, so not only do I get sucked into the reactivity, like I don't always have arms big enough to hold it. They're getting bigger. I do, like, it's improving, so to say, over time, but that is all there is to do with the fourth person perspective. Like, it's just, you do or say a thing and it reveals something that I then react to, or vice versa, or you feel a certain way and then I react to it. And sometimes I can hold it great. Most of the time I can't. And then, we kind of do our dance where we avoid one another and ourselves. Well, we have to regulate. We're just trying to find our way back to our own ground.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to quote the eminent theologian and philosopher, my mom,
Aw.
marriage is hard, Ryan.
It sure is, Mama.
If I were to make a 3-point outline for a sermon from
Yeah.
our conversation today,
Okay. I love it.
I would have these 3 points.
Okay.
Certainty separates. Curiosity invites. Relationship transforms.
Yep. That is a great summary. Good job. You're good at that.
When we are certain, we tend to stop listening.
Yep.
And that's the gift of being triggered or activated or dysregulated. When we are certain, we tend to stop listening. It gives us an opportunity to pause and to listen, whether that's listening to ourselves or listening to our therapist reflect back to us or listening to our partner try to explain what their experience is. Like, that is where we become capable of holding ambiguity, paradox, multiple perspectives. And then we can finally meet one another as a person, like in our own uniqueness as one another, rather than an object outside of our worldview to be managed or controlled or manipulated or run from or pushed down or covered up or drowned out.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
And so then perhaps the deeper irony is that we're noticing the journey of becoming less attached to anything that is apart from creating or inviting or drawing us into a deeper intimacy with ourselves and with the world, nature, partner, other humans. Like, that is what is taking place through this process of certainty separates, curiosity invites, and relationship transforms. I like the way you said it, though. Knowing yourself is an explicitly collaborative, dialogical, and relational enterprise. You cannot expose your own blind spots or psychological shadows by yourself.
Nope.
And that is so true. Well, thank you for sharing your paper with me. Asking some good questions and being vulnerable about your experience with it.
Thank you. There might be more. I don't know. I have written notes on a third of the paper. So there might be more. We'll see. But yeah, well, it's because it's so this whole relational thing, like this thing that we are doing right now, is how I learn and see more about myself. Like that, this is it. Like there's a little bit that is revealed as I write my notes. But like I have to talk it out, like in the same way that we have to write the letters in order to actually know what they are and what we think and how we feel. There's this layer of it too. And it's interesting how when I was a little triggered with you recently, one of the fears that my brain fed me was, that's it, it's over. You're never going to get to talk about this paper with him. So you're a
sick woman.
Like I was imagining all of the things that I would be missing out on. And I'm like, there's this layer of knowing myself that cannot come to be because we can't have this conversation. And I was just feeling very sad about all of that. So anyway.
I love it.
Thank you.
Well, the enemy of personal growth and development is perfection. And even having the idea that I have to be perfect, like that's
Yeah.
problematic
Yeah.
and will immediately take away the gift of curiosity and the invitation of intimacy in exchange of life and love and ideas and heart.
We don't make mistakes. Mistakes make us.
Ooh.
It's from a rap song.
Lay down a beat, girl.
Know how to feel it, I tell him, look, I don't make mistakes, the mistakes make me.
I don't make mistakes, mistakes make me. I forget which song. Anyway. Yeah, thank you.
Thank y'all for joining us today. Another beautiful episode of Remembering You. Until next time.
We will see you then.
Allison and Ryan signing off.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.